Welcome, everybody, to Limited Level Ups. I'm Alex, and I am just getting over being very sick this week. So I apologize for any stuffiness or weird soundingness. If you're a member of the Discord or you watch my stream, you'll know that I've been out with COVID, unfortunately, for the past week. I'm just getting over it. So again, apologies going into this episode if it sounds a little bit different. But anyways, this episode is going to be a cool one. It's going to be going over my drafts from day 2 of the Arena Open. We do a lot of theory and talking about abstract stuff on the show, and I thought it'd be cool to just dive into a few drafts that actually were for stakes, actually mattered, and look at some application. I am not alone. I'm not going through my drafts for half an hour or 40 minutes. As you can see, if you're watching or on Twitch or on YouTube, I've got a guest. I've got Jason, aka JasonILTG. Jason Yee is his real name, but he's been on the podcast before. Great Magic player. If you don't know, if you haven't heard the podcast before with them, just phenomenal limited player. Just played in the Arena Championship event with the very small 32 person exclusive event, and is always at the top of the best of 3 trophy leaderboards. I thought no better person, and the best thing about Jason is that I got him very short, last moment, short notice, and he said, yeah, I'm down for it. So that was the most important thing. But I thought it'd be really cool. We're going to go through these, and Jason's going to, as he said before the show, grill me on my bad picks, potentially. But also, just like weigh in. I thought it'd be kind of an interesting way to go through this. Jason, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well. I don't know if I'm the best person to help grill you through these high stakes drafts, given that I did not do so well in the Arena Championship, but I'm happy to be of help, happy to be available.
Yeah. I mean, look, one tournament result does not make the player. We all know that you're a fantastic player. I would not have anybody else here today. Without further ado, well, it sounds like I'm going to say without further ado, let's get into the draft. But I was going to say, without further ado, got to mention the Patreon, patreon.com/limitedlevelups. Just quickly, if you want to support the show, you like what's going on here, or you want a bunch of avenues for getting better at limited Magic, there's a bunch of reward tiers over there, ranging from draft log reviews to coaching to Discord, deck tech help, all that good stuff over there. Patreon.com/limitedlevelups. Going to keep it short and sweet this week because we do want to dive right into the action. And why don't we do that? So we've got, spoiler alert, 2 drafts to look at today, which of course means that I did 3-0 the first one. I got to the second on day 2. For those who aren't familiar with the structure of the Arena Open, what happens on day 2 is there's 2 drafts. The first draft, you have to 3-0 to be able to get to the second one, and the second one, for every win, you start to win some money. So the first one is $1,000, then you get 2,000 and 2,500 if you got the full 6-0. We'll save my results for the second draft when we get there, and we'll just start with this first one here. This is a 3-0 draft, and we're going to talk through it. This is the easy draft. There's not a million tricky or nail-biting decisions, but I do think it's still really cool just to walk through what a successful draft looks like, talking through the decision points that got me to where I was, and like I said, Jason's going to be able to weigh in with this. So for those who aren't watching on YouTube or Twitch or listening, I'm going to spell out the packs here, do my best to talk about the cards in contention. I'm not going to say every single card in the pack, but hopefully at this point in the format it shouldn't be too difficult to follow because I think most people know the card names. Or if I say the 4-mana Trample Enlister, right, that card, people are going to kind of know. Not that I'm going to mention that card very often, but but I think it's going to be not too difficult to follow along. So Jason, any thoughts on a competitive draft in this format? One of the questions I've gotten recently is, are you drafting differently at a competitive table? And I'll save my answer, but do you feel any differently? You've just been competing in some pretty high level events. Do you feel any differently drafting at a competitive table, or is it just like, I'm kind of just drafting how I'm drafting?
Yeah, so the Arena Open, I think, is definitely a weird example of this because you're drafting kind of in the best of 3 queues. Mm-hmm. I believe. I don't think there's a separate queue. I think they just shove you into the best of 3 queues. But there probably are also more people, as more experienced people who are also playing the Arena Open in those queues. So probably the table is going to be slightly more experienced than normal for best of 3, but you could also just get shoved into a random best of 3 queue with the normal best of 3 meta. So I don't know how much I want to bias on how I think like other people in the draft will be taking cards. And I think in general, I don't really bias in any way based on like, oh, maybe I want to like uh, go for like a high ceiling deck to like spike a 3-0. I don't know. I just usually draft the way I draft.
Yeah, I mostly feel the same too. I will admit I did something a little bit superstitious for these drafts, and I waited till almost the last minute you could enter, because I was like,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
you know, like maybe there'll be fewer people in, because you know, for those who don't know, like Jason was kind of saying, you enter in the best of 3 queue, just the normal best of 3 queue, but obviously on the day of, you're more likely to face or be in a draft with people that are actually, you know, high level drafters in these events. So I was like, well, maybe it'll lessen my chance of being in the draft with these people are actually competing in the event if I wait to the last moment. So I don't know if that actually means anything, but that is the one thing I did differently. So let's just jump into this first draft here. So pick one, pack one. Our rare is Timeless Lotus, the 5 mana mythic that comes in tapped and adds Wooburg mana. So not a card I'm really looking to first pick. Other cards in contention in this pack, we've got Love Song of Night and Day. That's the 3 mana white saga that makes birds and or makes a bird, and you can have both players draw cards. We've got Miria's Outrider. That's the 5 mana 4/4 reach that comes in and enters the battlefield, deals damage to an opponent equal to your domain. And we've got a land, green white land, Sunbathing Rootwalla, and we've got Tribute to Urborg, 1 and a black instant. -2/-2. You can kick it to give an additional -1 for each spell in your graveyard. So I took the Tribute to Urborg here. I identify this as the best card in the pack. Do you do the same here, Jason?
So I think it's a close pick between Love Song and Tribute personally. I think it probably comes down a lot to preference.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I also haven't like been drafting as much like on Arena. I've been doing a bunch more pod drafts, so I don't know how the meta looks like, and I could definitely see that being a factor. I definitely don't hate the Tribute pick. I might have landed on Love Song myself, but that might just be a preference thing.
Yeah, I think that there is, I know DeFore, who's a really, really good drafter, always near Mythic #1 on the best of 1 queues, is really big on white aggro. So I'm pretty sure DeFore would pick for example, somebody who really likes white aggro would pick Love Song here. I think that Tribute, Outrider, basically all the cards I mentioned are like in the same bracket, and that's the thing about this format too, right? You can make a lot of preference picks as long as it's within reason, right? Yeah, I'm not going to take, there's a Queen Elena, for example, in this pick, the white green star gold creature. I think that card is much worse, even if you prefer like a white aggro strategy. I just don't think that card is as powerful, right? So I picked the Tribute, for example, because I really like blue-black control bases. I think anybody else could take any of those other cards. So took the Tribute and move on here. So pick.
Well, one thing.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
I quickly checked 17 lands, and the best of 3 stats on Love Song and Tribute are basically neck and neck. Tribute's like 0.3% higher. Something to like maybe take into consideration, but when it's that close, like you should go with your gut over that probably.
Nice, and that's kind of what I did. That's exactly how I laid it out. All right, pick 2 here. We've got a Bortuk Bone Rattle. So that's the green-black 4/4 uncommon that reanimates something equal to your domain. We've got a Territorial Morrow, 5 mana star, power and toughness are equal to double your domain. We've got a Destroy Evil. We've got an Urborg Repossession, and we've got a Miria's Outrider in the pack. And there's also a Phyrexian Espionage. I should shout out that card. I love Phyrexian Espionage. It is one of the higher winning commons in the set, and it's a card that I think doesn't get the love it deserves. Just like looking at the raw win rate of the card, I think people still undervalue it. But lots of options in this pack. After we take the Tribute, what does Jason see from this pack?
I mean, there's so many good cards in this pack. Like, I think any of like Bortuk, Repossession, Morrow, Destroy Evil, Espionage, all of those are like pretty powerful cards. I think I like taking Repossession because it is like slightly less committal than Bortuk, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's possible to play a Repossession in a deck that's like black, like blue-black with like a small green splash or something, but Bortuk is like commits you a bit more to having to go like domain to play it. And I don't know, I just like taking the black card to follow up my black card.
Yeah, that was my thought too. So I did take the Repossession, and I think it's actually kind of an interesting pick because you kind of look and you're like, ooh, powerful domain payoff, Bortuk, Territorial Morrow. Like, I think a lot of people would be drawn to those cards, and I did tank on it a little bit, but I kind of ended, with the same logic as you had, where it's like a little bit less committal. if I end up in like a blue-black deck with a bunch of Tolarian Terrors, like I'm fine. I could be fine just playing it with no way to kick it if I just have like a bunch of Terrors and I just want to buy back my Terror for cheap. So yeah, I think also one of the format developments that I felt as it's gone on is just like I really want the first Urborg repossession. Yeah. It's just so important. It's just so many of the games come down to who kicks the repossession, who can kick 2 repossessions, right? It's just so many games come down to a grind. And Bortuk Bone Rattle is like a similar thing, but yeah, it's just a little bit less flexible with picking the Bone Rattle. So I took the Urborg repossession, pick 2. You got a Tribute, you got a repossession. Pack 1, pick 3 here. I think really the cards in contention, we've got a Nail. It's the 2 green, blue, 2/4 flyer. Domain hits them, and if you've got full domain, you draw a card. If you don't have full domain, you scry equal to your domain count. And there's a Talus Lookout, 2/3 flyer for 4. I think those are the cards that are really stick out from this pack. Any thoughts on these two, biasing away or towards one? Maybe maybe there's some thought for you've just passed some domain payoffs. You don't want to take the domain card. Maybe that's not a thought at all in your mind.
I think I mostly don't care that I've passed a bunch of domain stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I don't know, there were a lot of good cards in that pack, and like I don't tend to put that much weight on what signals I'm sending. But regardless, I think I would take the Lookout here over Nail. Just because like I feel like Nail has been like kind of unimpressive to me. Like I feel, or like at least compared to how highly I see other people take it. Like to me, Nail's like a 2/4 flyer that scries. It's just kind of hard to hit domain 5 unless like your draft goes really well. So yeah, and Lookout is just like a really solid card. I will call out also there's a Gibbering Barricade in the pack, the 2/4 3 mana 2/4 defender in black, mostly just because it's like the black card in the pack, and we do have 2 black cards, but I think Lookout is enough better to take it here.
Yeah, man, that's what I thought too. And again, this is just like kind of in the I really like the blue-black base. Talus Lookout is a fine card there, so I took it, and we move on to pick 4 here. Pick 4, I think, is a little bit easier. We've got a Keldon Strike team, 3/1 haste that you can kick to make 2 tokens. We've got a Splatter Goblin. We've got an Aaron, Benalia's Ruin, white, black, 3/3 menace. Tap it, pay black, sack creature, put a counter on all your creatures. But in my mind, there's an easy pick here. There's an Essence Scatter. I love Essence Scatter. Goes in that blue-black shell, and I just snapped it up here. Yep, easy one.
Nothing else to say.
Yeah, nothing else to say. Pack 5 is a little bit drier here. So there's a bunch of red-white aggro cards. Bolduvian Berserker, Heroic Charge. I mean, Heroic Charge is really the important card here. As much of, I should say, filler red-white cards. Bolduvian Berserker, Mesa Cavalier, the 2/1 flyer. There's a red-white land. The 2 cards that I was going back and forth on here, though, in the pack are Phyrexian Warhorse, which is the 4-mana 3/3 black creature you can kick for a white to make a 1/1 soldier, and you can sack something for 1 mana to give the horse +2/+1, and Salvaged Mana Worker, the 2 mana 1/3, it filters your mana. I took the Warhorse here. I figured, all right, well, I'm not necessarily blue-black. I maybe could just play this if I ended up with a few white sources. And I don't mind a Mana Worker, but I feel like, it's that would be a bit too hedgy at this point. I kind of just want to lock in a good card for a potential deck that I might be in.
Interesting. I think I would have landed on the Mana Worker.
Nice, personally. Okay. We got our first kind of disagreement here. So let me hear it.
Basically, my thought is like, Urborg Repossession and Tribute to Urborg don't like particularly go well with your Warhorse. Like Warhorse is definitely best when it's in like a black-white, like aggressive-ish at least deck. And like it's going to be hard to splash the kickers on Repossession and Tribute if you're doing that. And like I'm just not that excited about Warhorse. Either A, if it's unkicked, or B, if I'm like splashing it in a blue-black deck. And I feel like with the Urborg Repossession already, you're like already looking to try to have some splash sources for those kickers. Another card I want to call out, which I think I would also take over Warhorse, but I don't think I would take over Mana Worker, is Negate. Because I actually have liked having a Negate in my sideboard in Best of 3, and I think it's like kind of valuable.
Yes, no, I agree. I even think in Best of 1, I've started playing Negate a decent amount, and that is worth noting, right? Like I am navigating this deck this draft a little bit differently than I would, because I mostly play Best of 1, where it's just like, yeah, you should consider sideboard cards, especially like another question I get asked kind of often is like, how do you value sideboard cards, or like where do you take them? I think this is, looking back, I think this is actually a pretty good spot to take a sideboard card potentially. I generally take sideboard cards in packs that there isn't really anything that exciting, right? Because you don't often want to take a sideboard card over a good spell that might make your main deck. But I think in a spot like this, it is a pretty good spot, place to take it. I guess the one reservation I would have is I probably will see a negate sometime in the future, and that's kind of what I was thinking about the Mana Worker as well. But you're right, I do think I should have taken probably one of those over the Warhorse. The Warhorse, I think, it's just not that exciting, even if I am in a black-white deck.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally am very excited to play a Mana Worker. I love having good mana personally.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. I was thinking, maybe I can pick up a Mana Worker later, but like if I just take it now out of this pack that I'm not missing much, I don't have to take it later, right? So yeah, I agree with this pick. I should have just taken Mana Worker, I think. All right, pick 6 here. So we're kind of winding down the pack. If I remember, there's not too much exciting. We get a Tangled Islet, so blue-green land over not too much else. There's a Pilfer, which, could be a decent sideboard card. There's another Warhorse. There's a Soaring Drake. There's a Automatic Librarian, which is the card I've been playing quite a bit recently, actually. It's kind of the, a decent 23rd filler card, yeah. We get to pick 7, though. I spoke too soon. I don't know why I said there wasn't anything awesome. We got to pick 7 Tolarian Terror. So that's just awesome. I should also note there's an Idyllic Beachfront, the blue-white land, and the black-green land in this pack. There's also a Tribute to Urborg. So are you, I assume you agree with me taking the Terror here.
Yes, yeah. Terror is like very, very good for you here. It's insane that you're seeing this pack this late.
And also just like the fact that there's a tribute here, and like this pack kind of tells you something. Like not just the Terror, but the draft doesn't, like the rest of the table doesn't want a tribute, and also maybe isn't valuing lands that highly. So yeah, this was a sign of good things to come, I thought.
Yeah.
We move on to pick 8 here. I pick up a Joint Exploration with a pack with not much else in it. I pick up a Shore Up, pick 9, which is kind of nice when I have the Terror. Pick up that Phyrexian Espionage that I noted. So another pack where I was like, oh man, I was rubbing my hands together. I'm like, all right, I think we got a good one on our hands here. I think this table is gonna let me have the good blue cards. Pick 11, picked up a Volish. What is this one called? Volshape?
Volsh, I think is how
Volsh?
That's how I would.
I've never said this out loud. A Volsh Tide Turner, the 2-mana 1/3 that adds mana for spells. A Samite Herbalist. And look, the Mana Worker came back. I got bailed out. Pick 13. Another Tide Turner, pick 14. So let's do a pack.
Your pick was correct.
Yes, exactly. My pick was correct. Let's do a little bit of a check-in at the end of this pack. I think we're pretty solidified in base blue-black spell control stuff. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's very clear.
I would be surprised if you disagreed. I also got very lucky. So pack 2, pick 1. We open up a Voldalian Mindsinger, which is the 1 blue 2/2 that you can kick for 1 in a red or 1 in a green to put 2 counters on it. And then when ETBs, you take control of a creature with power less than the Mindsinger's power. So obviously, going to take that. It's going to be better than pretty much any other card I could open at uncommon or common. Worth noting, there's also a Phyrexian Espionage and a Writhing Necromass in this pack. Just, thinking about things I might pick up on the wheel. So that's awesome. Pick 2. We see another Tolarian Terror. There's also a Battlewing Mystic, the 2/1 flyer, but I think we just take Tolarian Terror clearly over Battlewing Mystic when I'm in blue-black.
I do want to say, I think it is kind of close.
Oh, okay.
I would take the Terror, but I think people underrate Battlewing Mystic.
Oh, interesting. I think people overrate it, so let me hear.
I don't know. It's just like, maybe it's because I'm more willing to play Mana Workers, so I'm more willing to put Battlewing Mystic in my random non-red blue decks. But that card has been really good.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. This is a holdover from the mid part of the format for me, where I was like, my blue decks have so much to do with their mana. Like, they don't really want to be discarding their hand to draw 2 cards. And a 2/1 flyer for 2 is not the worst thing in the world by any means, but it's also not like a premium in these blue-black kind of control-y decks. But then, you kind of also, if you got a really good Tolarian Terror deck, where you're like, kind of the, I described it as like the Murktide Regent kind of decks, where you're just like playing a bunch of spells early, interacting. Your hands are, you don't just you're not just drawing stuff, a bunch of cards with Phyrexian Espionage, like a bunch of draw 2s. You're more like cantripping and impulsing and, doing stuff like that, where you don't actually end up with a million cards in your hand at the end of the day, right? So I do think if I am that kind of deck, Battlewing Mystic is pretty good. But if I am a more okay, I do have 3 Espionages, maybe it gets a little bit worse then.
Yeah, it might also be I've been drafting more in pod drafts and less on arena, so the card Phyrexian Espionage has been going a lot sooner than like it might be on Arena.
Right. Yeah.
So like when you can't get espionage is when you don't just have like so much card advantage, like Battlewing Mystic does get better.
Yes.
Like
yes.
when you are that like more 1-for-1, just like play a bunch of like cantrips and removal spells, having something to refill does get more important. But like regardless, I do agree with the Terra pick here, because Terra is like basically the best card for your deck
yes,
here.
exactly. And our deck is really shaping up, by the way. And I should mention, like, last week on the podcast, I talked about like the transition point in your draft and recognizing when you're going from just taking good cards to like, okay, I have the shell of a deck here, let's build towards it. I think now, like that pick there, the second Tolarian Terror, that really locked me in for like, I know what my deck's gonna look like now. I'm not just like a vague blue deck with some pretty good cards. I'm like, okay, at 2 terrors, now I'm a Tolarian Terror deck, right? So I do want the impulses highly. Yeah. I want to take timely interferences, that kind of stuff. And we get a really good pick, pack 2, pick 3 here. We get past the Haughty Djinn. This is the 1 blue, X4 flyer, power equal to the instants and sorceries in your grave, and your spells cost 1 less. So I mean, just an awesome pass to us here. This is kind of interesting. If you had a pack with Haughty Djinn and Tolarian Terror, which one do you think's better?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't actually know. I just like haven't played with Haughty Djinn enough. My guess would be Haughty Djinn because like it's a flyer. And like in a deck where Tolarian Terror is good, I would imagine that Haughty Djinn is probably even better. Like it is easier to interact with, but like comes down earlier and is harder to block and gives you like value. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think like the mana production from it is actually really valuable as well. Just going like Haughty Djinn, kick an espionage the turn after, or like Haughty Djinn, play a creature, hold up a 1 mana Essence Scatter. Like that's just really powerful. So yeah, I do think it is a little bit better. Maybe even a few notches.
Yeah, so what I'm learning is that I should have joined the draft at the last minute.
Yes, exactly. My strat paid off, right? Next up, we take an Impulse, which is just perfect for what I'm doing here. Is also a blue-white land, but I really highly value Impulse with the 2 terrors and the Haughty Djinn. We take a Phyrexian Espionage over not too much, pick 5 here. Take an Impulse, pick 6 over a Joint Exploration and a Eerie Soul Tender, which, kind of plays sort of in the same space with Tolarian Terror, mills you, can get back your Terror, but I do think Impulse is better here. Do you feel differently?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And also, you're like mostly mono blue right now. Like you started off with 2 black cards, but it's like good to like check in with your cards and realize that like the only black cards you have are the 2 that you took pack 1 picks 1 and 2, Tribute and Airborne Repossession. So like you're really like not that tied to black.
Yes, exactly. I even thought for a second, like I think, I was like, well, this is the end of pack 2. I was thinking, remember, I'm like, well, I'm not that black. I would like to play the Tribute and kick Espionage, but if I open a good red, control leaning bomb, I wouldn't be too sad about taking it. Like a Firestorm, for example. I could see myself taking that. All right, and then we get another Tribute to Urborg, pack 2, pick 7, which is just excellent for us. There's also an Impulse in the pack, but I figure, okay, I'm balancing my, my kind of roles in my deck here. I want to take another interaction spell at this point and over another cantrip. I think,
I agree.
Yeah, good place to take it. Also, I should note too, there's a Rona in this pack, Sheoldred's Faithful, and I think most people are on to the, they've caught on that Rona is not very good, but like not even in the same league as these 2 cards, right?
I just saw that next pack.
Jesus, like, I'm not even gonna listen because the next pack is just tantalizing to me.
No. You briefly flickered forward to it, and I saw what the card was, and this really is easy mode.
All right, so we get another Tolarian Terror, pick 8, back to pick 8. So yes, it was very easy mode draft for me. We get a Aggressive Sabotage, pick 9. I took that for the sideboard over another Mana Worker. A Writhing Necromass, which I figured I'm probably not going to play, but it's not that bad to pick up pick 10 here.
I will say, actually, I think maybe you should have taken Smash to Dust pick 10.
Ooh, okay. So I didn't mention it, but there's a Smash to Dust. But yeah, give me your thoughts there.
I think there just like isn't any world where you're playing Necromass. Just looking at your deck, like you're not, like, I don't know. You'd have to like pick up 2 Soul Tenders and also like want to put a lot more creatures in your deck when you're already looking to put a bunch of spells in your deck for terrors.
Yep.
And like I could imagine like pack 3, you open you open a Firestorm, and suddenly like sideboarding in a red sideboard card is looking a bit more real.
Yeah, maybe I open, I have a reason to put red mana in my deck in pack 3, and then I just pick up some blue-red dual lands or something like that. Yeah, no, I totally buy that. And Smash the Dust is kind of funny. It very directly targets, I think, a card that is pretty potent against your like Tolarian Terror strategy, which is Wingmantle Chaplain. Like, you're really looking to 1-for-1 with most decks and then play terrors, but like Wingmantle Chaplain really just messes up that strategy unless you have a counter spell, right? So yeah, I actually do agree with that. And you know what? That wasn't even on my radar at the time. So I think, great. Look, this is why we're doing this, right? Great to have somebody else's opinion. All right, pick 11. 12, 13, really not. I picked not much in the pack. I picked up a Thrill Possibility, another Automatic Librarian.
Oh, I will make another sideboard comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Broken Wings on pick 11. Like, I can definitely tell that you're drafting with the best of one mind.
Definitely. No, for sure. I definitely was a little bit. I just like, I think even though I'm pretty alert to the fact that I'm drafting best of 3, just kind of like the muscle memory of it. It's just like, well, I saw Broken Wings, and like I don't even know if it registered, right? So yeah, no, you're totally right about that. And then, okay, so let's do a little bit of a looking at our deck here. End of pack 2, we've got 3 Tolarian Terrors, a Mindsinger, a Haughty Djinn, double Espionage, double Impulse, Urborg Reposition, double Tribute. Like, what are you looking for in pack 3? Often I think of pack 3 as my like hole filling pack, but I think most of our roles in our deck are already kind of filled.
I think the biggest thing would be like a bit more hard removal.
Yeah.
Like Tribute is like really good. And like you are going to be playing a bunch of spells. Another thing I guess I could say is like more spells, more cheap spells. Mm-hmm. Like I guess you do have like 2 impulses and joint exploration, so you're pretty good on that too. But just like having more ways to like deal with your opponent playing a 6/6 might be good.
All right, so pack 3, I go, can I open a bomb one more time? Nope. I got excited. I remember I was like, ooh, blue card. No, it's a Phasing of Zhalfir. It's a rare. So not a particularly playable card, but there is a Talus Lookout in the pack, and I did take that. There's a Phyrexian Espionage. There's a Bone Splinters, which isn't particularly good. I do wonder, though, is there a world here where Jason takes, there's a Destroy Evil in this pack?
Yes, I was going to say that. I think it's kind of close.
Yeah.
I think I would, actually, because like I don't think the second Talus Lookout is doing all that much for us. Like, we already have 3 Terrors. We have a Haughty Djinn, a Mindsinger, and a Lookout. Like, you don't need that many more threats.
Yep.
You even have a Shore Up to protect your stuff. So yeah, like the second Lookout, like it's certainly not going to be a bad card, right? It's going to be great. But I feel like Destroy Evil just like fills another hole in your deck. And it looks like you're like fairly good on playable, so like I wouldn't be too sad to just like take a Destroy Evil here and not play it, and then like not end up playing it. But like I feel like if I can play it, that would be like pretty great at filling the hole of like a way to kill a 6/6 in this deck.
Yeah, and I also think that, we've got the Mana Worker in the pile. I think that I could even convince myself if I didn't pick up, maybe I picked up another Mana Worker that I didn't play in the main. I could definitely see myself being like, okay, there's this matchup where it's really important to kill a key big threat. Yeah. Maybe it's a bomb, and maybe I didn't have white mana in my mana base game 1, but I just decided in like the second Mana Worker and a Plains or 2. Like, this deck is really good at seeing a lot of cards, so it can find the sources and find a Destroy Evil. So I think even as like a sideboard consideration, against a deck that I need another hard removal spell against, I think it's a reasonable consideration too. Would you take it here? Gun to your head. Do you take this or the Talus Lookout?
I don't know. It's it's definitely a hard pick to make. I think I was definitely thinking it, but part of it was also me thinking like, I know that the pick is going to be Talus Lookout. How do I like find something to disagree with?
Well, I mean, that's a good place to be, right? If you're trying to find disagreements. I think in my heart of hearts, if I go back and do this, I still just take the Talus Lookout, right? I don't think I convinced myself to take the Destroy Evil, but I do think it's worth noting. I think a lot of drafters wouldn't even be considering that at this point, right? So worth pointing out for sure. Pick 2 out of pack 3. We get a nice one. This is another one I was just rubbing my hands together. We get a Vohar, Voldalian Desecrator. So this is the blue-black looter 1/2. Tap it, draw a card, discard a card. If you discard a spell, instant or sorcery, you drain your opponent. You can pay 2 to rebuy a spell from your grave. Well, only for the turn. It exiles you can cast it this turn. But just awesome card. I'm not going to necessarily be doing Urborg Repossession loops, which is the best thing this card can do, where you like sack it and repossess it, and then you do the whole thing again. But that might come up if I pick up a I do have a blue-green land in my sideboard. Actually, I just realized, so I could just be doing that at some point in my, like, I'm gonna be putting Repossession in Vohar in my deck most likely, so that's likely gonna come up at some point. There's also a Karn Silex as a an okay Wrath effect, but I think it's just like a clear Vohar in my mind.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, I do kind of like this Karn Silex, but Vohar is just like a bit too good to take it over, I think. But like, I do think the Silex will be pretty good in this deck because like it is a very good combo with Terror, because Terror costs 7, so like you're not going, like, you can very often get a one-sided Wrath with Silex because like your threats cost 7, so you can like blow up even their 5-drops without getting anything of yours.
Yeah, also, here's a question. There's a Tangled Islet, so it's the blue-green land in this pass. Would you take that over the Karn Silex? The Islet helps you kick the repossession more often in this deck.
I would actually take Grotto over Islet.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Or maybe, okay, it's kind of close. I guess we don't actually have the Destroy Evil.
In your mind, we have Destroy Evil, we have the Battling Mystic, right? If you're drafting the way you would have drafted the seat, which is slightly different. Yeah, Grotto.
I'm going to revise my statement to say that no, I would not take the Grotto over the Islet. But like, definitely, like, Grotto is a card to look out for if you're crazy like me.
Right. Also worth noting, I said it was the only thing that the repossession is the only thing that the Islet helps with. That's not true. We also have the Alien Mindsinger in the pile, right? Yeah. So
hey, Grotto helps kick it for red as well.
Right, exactly. If we get to 8 mana, we can do both sides, right?
Yeah.
All right, next
that's
pack.
Like not that relevant.
Next pack. Oh man, I was just like, oh my goodness. We get a third pick Solkanar. So this is the mythic, that 5/5 Grixis mythic that you have 4 options: either draw a card, drain your opponent for 2, and deal 3 to something, or the last thing you pick is you give it to your opponent. And I was just thrilled at getting this here. Now, I don't quite have any mana to cast it. I don't have a blue-red land or a black-red land. I have the Mana Worker.
This is why you pick up Mana Workers.
Yeah, the Mana Worker, exactly. That comes back into the equation here. But I don't think there's a world I don't take this. There's also a Tribute to Urborg, I should mention, and a Haunted Mire in the pack, as well as things I was considering at this point. But would you also take the Solkanar?
Yeah, you have to take Solkanar here. That card is one of the best cards in the set.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I actually, again, this is another one I think, now the set's played out a bit, I think more people are onto the fact that that is true, that it is one of the best cards in the set. But I know early on, people are like, oh, that card's good? Like, that's actually a good card. I think people have the nightmare scenario of, I give my opponent a 5/5.
Oh, yeah. Every single time my opponent plays against me, I'm like, okay, maybe, just maybe, I can survive until I get it. And it never happens. No, I always die first.
No, you just die. Yeah, you just die. I actually read, I don't know if you caught wind of this, but there was like this developer story. I can't remember who said it, but somebody said it on Twitter. I think it might have been Melissa DeTora, who said, we actually had to change this card in development because it was just killing people too quickly. So I think it used to like drain for 3 and deal 4 and like scry 2, draw a card or something like that. So even still, it does do the, oh no, they're just dead before I give it to them thing. So
yeah, and that like your opponent's gonna be blue, they're gonna have Tolarian Geyser as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just bounce it back. Yeah, it never happens. And luckily, the next pack doesn't have a lot for us, but it does have a Molten Tributary, the blue-red land. So great pickup for us here, pick 4.
Ooh. Okay, here I might take the Grotto over the blue-red land.
Yeah, I should mention there's also a Grotto in the pack. So yeah, you want to talk that out a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. It is very close. But I tend to like the first copy of Grotto if I'm like doing a kind of like multiple splashes kind of thing, where like here I have both a Solkanar, we have both a Solkanar and like an Urborg Repossession, and like the Mindsinger. So like the blue-red land would help with Solkanar, but it wouldn't help with Repossession. And like Grotto does help with both, but it is like slightly more inefficient at doing that.
Yeah, my logic here, and I did consider the Grotto at this point, but my logic here was I have, I've got a Molten Tributary now, I've got a Tangled Islet, I've got this Mana Worker. I also have a lot of ways to see cards, so I don't know if I'm so worried about one card fixing for all of my colors, if I have the potential and the likelihood that I'm just going to be able to find the source of the card that I need, and it'll be, more efficient. Because, the cost of Grotto is that you're casting your spell for a less efficient cost, right?
Yeah,
so I wanted
that's
to,
fair.
basically I was like, it's more efficient, I'll be able to find my sources more often. I don't think I need the less efficient fixer for casting a bunch of different colors. But, that was my logic.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think it is kind of close. One thing I will say in favor of Grotto, or like it's possible you were also taking this into account, but like the fact that you're close to mono blue here, like your black is already like a very secondary color, does make Grotto better because you can afford to play like 7 swamps in a Grotto, and for that to not really punish you on like making your black spells harder to cast.
Right, yeah.
Whereas like if you were closer to a straight, like I have lots of black cards and lots of blue cards, then Grotto can be like very awkward where like you kind of force yourself to run like 7 islands, 7 swamps in the Grotto and some other lands, and suddenly like you have to pay 3 for your impulse.
Yes, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Pack 5 here, or pack 3, pick 5. You pick up a Haunting Figment out of a pretty nothing pack. There was another Broken Wings in the pack, so I should, mention that. I shouldn't just say there's nothing. My learning from my mistakes here.
I would also mention Battle Rage Blessing. I think that card is like also kind of a sideboard card that is worth considering. Like with your tears, especially.
Yep.
Like I could see just wanting. There are definitely places where you just want like a Battle Rage Blessing out of the sideboard to like fight against your opponent's removal, because maybe like you're leaning on your tears a lot and your opponent has a lot of removal for them, like a bunch of destroy evils, or like maybe your opponent's like plan for dealing with your tears is like double blocking with 2 4/4s, and then blessing also looks pretty good there. It's going to be like worse than a take up the shield mostly always, but like that's a high bar to reach.
Yeah, and I'm just like not. I was going to say I'm not ever playing Haunting Figment, but my thought was like maybe I bring it in against a deck with a bunch of like 3-1s.
I think you might actually.
Yeah, I might even in this deck, but I might even sideboard against a bunch of like 3-1s or something.
Yeah, I definitely. I think I would land on the Figment here, because I do think like you don't have very many essence scatters, right? Like your spells are like Impulse, Tribute to Urborg onto, so like and 2 espionages, so like there are definitely, you can definitely play the Figment and have it get in for some early damage because you're casting a bunch of proactive spells early.
Yep.
So I definitely don't hate it in this deck, so I would take it here. I just think like Battle Rage Blessing is worth mentioning.
Yep, for sure. Pick 6 here, we get a Phyrexian Espionage over a Splatter Goblin and a Nail. I'm happy with the third one here, especially after I've got 3 Tolarian Terrors. I pick up a Splatter Goblin, pick 7 over another Tide Turner and a bunch of green-red cards in the pack. Take a Plaza of Heroes. I don't know. I think this pack literally is just all Naya cards. Yeah, just like a pack of all Naya cards. And then the Rona comes back. I take that. I take an Aggressive Sabotage for the sideboard. Although there's a Tide Pool Turtle for the sideboard too. The 2/5 3-mana.
I would rather play the second Sabotage.
Okay, yeah. For sure. And then a Timely Interference comes around over a Blight Pile. I ended up playing the Interference. I even ended up kicking it a few times, but it is really good with the Tolarian Tears. And I think that's it. We even got a Smash to Dust last pick, pick 14. Nice. So this was my 3-0 draft. It was just a fantastic deck. Excellent. I did end up playing some of the kind of curve Philly stuff, the Splatter Goblin.
Oh, wait. I'm surprised you didn't play the Plaza of Heroes. I just realized like it's like not horrible in your deck because it does cast Solkanar.
It casts Solkanar. It casts Vohar. If you want to, it also, if you get the Vohar down, it then fixes for like double blue or double black, I guess.
I guess your mana is not good enough to play it probably. But like, I didn't realize you weren't playing the Rona, which like fair. I don't disagree with you not playing the Rona. But...
Right. And then we end up with 3 Tolarian Terrors, 3 Espionages, 2 Talos Looksouts, the Solkanar. Couldn't ask for anything better, basically. The next draft, this was a gigantic doozy. So this one, I'll give you the record here. It went 1-1, so I did end up getting the 1K, which was nice. But I think this was probably the worst draft I've had of this entire format. It was really difficult. Both like the packs were really dry. Things like kind of didn't break my way in like the cards I was seeing for the deck I was trying to draft. I had to like pivot into a bunch of different stuff. You'll see, we'll basically see what's happening. But this is definitely one that I'm ready to be, you can dig into me a little more if you feel strongly about what happened, because this one I would definitely classify as not a success. Okay, so let's jump through this. So pick one, pack one. We see the following cards in contention. We've got JasonILTG. It's the black-white 2/2 Death Touch. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. When something you control dies, your opponent loses a life. We've got a Territorial Marrow, a Destroy Evil, and a Callous Lookout. I took the Destroy Evil, but I wonder if you take something else.
Also, you should probably turn off picks for this one.
Yeah, let's turn off picks for this. This is a good idea, yeah. I should also mention in this pack, there's also 2 lands. There's a black-green land and a blue-red land. But yeah, let's turn off picks for this one.
Yeah, I think the only 2 cards I'm really considering here are Ellis and Destroy Evil, just because those are just the best cards in the pack. The Territorial Mario maybe comes a bit close, but I do think the other 2 are just a lot better than it. This one's really tough for me. Ellis is really, really powerful, but it is a lot more committal than Destroy Evil, and that's not I think I might land on this land on different picks different days.
Yeah. I ended up on the Destroy Evil, just because I was like, okay, well, I do think Ellis is a little bit better, but flexibility matters quite a bit, especially at, the other thing is, I think flexibility matters even a little bit more at a table of people you think are good drafters, just because, you can't always shoehorn the best cards into your deck, and you might not end up making, the easiest 23 playables, just a card that's a little bit easier to cast. I think I give the nod there too, but yeah, I agree. It's different days, different cards here. So we start the draft off with a Destroy Evil. Pick 2 here was where it was all right, well, now there's some cards here that I'm interested in, but nothing really stands out. So cards in contention. We've got a Floriferous Vine Wall. We've got a Captain's Call. We've got a Shore Up. And that's kind of it. There's a Torii Dominant, there is a Deathbloom Gardener, but those are the 3 cards I think are the best cards in the pack, and it's very sad to say that those are the best cards in the pack for pick 2 here.
You said you did mention Torii, but you did so in a very not excited about Torii way, and to some extent I agree, but I think I would just take Torii here because one thing I like about to do with in the starter drafts is try to find some direction, right? And Torii very much is that, right? Torii is actually fairly powerful in a red-white deck. It's just extremely committal and not quite powerful enough to make up for. It's not like Ellis. It's not quite as good as Ellis. So it's harder to justify taking it this early, and also it's harder to cast.
Right.
But I think that I don't really want to start off my draft with Destroy Evil, with a Captain's Call to follow up my Destroy Evil. That feels I don't know quite how to put it, but it just feels like that is putting too much stock into oh, I'm taking a not that powerful white card and maybe trying to feel out of white is open. Whereas Torii is if white red is open, I will be a lot happier.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I did take the Captain's Call here. In my mind, I think the Captain's Call is better in red-white than Torii, but maybe that's wrong.
Interesting.
I just, when I'm drafting red-white, I just want, the token makers and ways to Anthem, and I think Torii is, an okay way to Anthem, but more replaceable than something that makes 3 tokens. But I don't know, maybe I'm off on that. I'm not a red-white expert, but it's kind of funny me saying that. But I'm not a red-white expert in this format by any means. I've drafted it quite a bit, but I'm not in tune with the exact nuances of a pick like this. I would also just say my reasoning too is that I think that black-white can have kind of the go wide theme. You can have that a little bit there, so it's the argument for flexibility there. I don't know. I guess for me, this pick comes down to I just don't think Torii is that good, but you might have a slightly different view on her.
Yeah, so 17 Lands agrees with you to some extent. I guess I should filter for red-white as well to see how those compare, but Torii is 2% lower than Captain's Call on 17 Lands. I don't know. I've been slightly less impressed by Captain's Call because I feel like my way of getting into white recently has been more mostly just what's it called, the Cavalier, the 2/2 that comes with a 1/1.
Yep.
At common, and like Captain's Call has always felt to me like just slightly slow at 4 mana, and like definitely you still play it. It's still good. It's just like not like it's not as premium to me. It feels like there's definitely just more ways to go wide than there are to pump your team. Oh, and also 17 lands kind of agrees with me with Tori and Call being a lot closer in red-white.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, no, I think that's very sound argument. So it's awesome to hear like a card that I wasn't even considering in this pick being one that you might. Would that be the card you would take here? You're saying?
Yeah. I think I would take Tori here.
Cool.
I do think Call would be my second pick here if Tori wasn't in the pack.
Nice. Okay, so not too
I think
far off.
I don't really want to like speculate on Vine Wall or Shore Up.
I did take Captain's Call, so now we have a Destroy Evil and a Captain's Call. Pick 3 here. Again, not the most amazing pick, but there is a Destroy Evil, and I did end up taking that. It's a pretty easy pick. There's also a Keldon Strike Team, which is a card that, it's just like the best common or one of the best commons for red-white if I did want to plant my flag, basically. There's also a Balduvian Berserker, Coalition Sky Knight as cards that are not particularly good, and a red-white and a black-green land. But agree on the Destroy Evil here?
Yeah, definitely agree on the Destroy Evil. I think if you took Tori, you'd be like pretty happy to see this pack because like there's some chance the Keldon Strike team wheels.
Yes, exactly. Next up, we have a pack with, again, kind of like mediums. We've got a blue-white land, a Braid's Frightful Return, a Gitu Amplifier, but there is a shining light here. There is another Keldon Strike team. That is the card I took. Very happy to take that.
Yep.
Pick 5 here, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Things are looking up. I get a Argivian Cavalier, just the card.
You're saying this was the draft that was like
I know.
train wreck you?
I was excited at this point. I was like, oh man, like this is great. Starting with like 3 really good white cards, a Keldon Strike team. So I took the Argivian Cavalier. It's a 3-mana 2/2, comes with a 1/1 soldier. Also a Tail Swipe in the pack, but I don't think we take that here when we've got 3 awesome white cards. And I think this, that's where the excitement stops. I think it starts to go off the rails as soon as pick 6 here. So pick 6, we see a Najal, we see a Griffin Protector, we see a black-blue and a white-blue land. What do you like out of this pack?
Interesting. It is very interesting that you didn't mention either Furious Bellow or Phyrexian Warhorse because I was also eyeing those a bit. I think I would personally land on the Protector just because it's mono white, but I have been impressed by Furious Bellow in red white, and Warhorse is I think it's like slightly better than Protector in black white, but like obviously you'd have to be black white for it to play it here, whereas Protector is just like a mono white card that goes very well with your Captain's Call, Strike Team, Cavalier already.
Yeah, so. I think this is a pick that I disagree with myself on in hindsight. So I ended up taking the blue-white land.
Whoa,
here. Yeah.
Interesting.
So my thought was, I think I was thinking too much in a vacuum here, or too much like I was still in the mode of take the best card or just like take good cards early on. Because I think after taking the string of cards I took, Captain's Call, Strike Team, Cavalier, I think I should have been in the mode of start, I was talking in the first draft about that transition point between taking good cards and identifying when your deck is starting to be a deck. I think my deck is already there. I think I should start taking cards that actually make sense in my deck. And while Griffin Protector isn't like, oh man, I've got, a Griffin Protector here, I do think it's good enough with multiple token makers that I should just take it here over a speculative blue-white land. And taking a white land is I think a defensible pick, but not the right one here. I should have just taken the Griffin Protector.
Yeah, I agree. This is also one of the reasons why I wanted to take Tori earlier, because I really like just trying to find a direction, and if that ends up being a good direction, just immediately locking in, and maybe I'll get a bit punished later, but if you have enough, if you see enough good cards early, it is sometimes quite easy to just lock in and draft that for the rest of the draft.
Totally. Pick 7 here. Another kind of, we get a really spicy pick. There's a Joda in the rare slot. There's a Coalition Sky Knight. There's a Thrill of Possibility, Clockwork Drawbridge. What would you take here?
Okay. Well, it's not the Joda, sadly.
Yeah, we're not in position. But I just took blue-white land, though. Come on.
Okay. I think I would land on Drawbridge because, I really don't like Sky Knight. It's possible I'm like just underrating that card, even though like it is truly really bad. But I don't know. I think one thing I will say about Drawbridge, I have been liking Drawbridge recently in blue-white. I might be slightly being biased by the blue-white land you have, but specifically like the fact it works pretty well with Wrath.
Yep.
And like Wrath is one of the strongest things to do in blue-white, of just like, it's a cheap body that lets you, draw cards more easily with Wrath. It keeps you alive a bit early and then has some utility late. And like, obviously that's not going to be the best in a lot of white decks because you want to be more aggressive, but blue-white is can be a more controlling version of white. So I don't hate that. Also, you have 2 Destroy Evils, which does lean towards like being able to be more controlling in white. So yeah, I think that's what I would pick.
Yeah, that's what I landed on too. I also just thought like, there's a slight chance to open a Chaplain or I get past it or something. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to speculate on walls at the end of the pack. So yeah, that's what
I've played a surprising number of blue-white Chaplainless walls.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there too with like Coral Colonies and like, yeah, been there too. Pick 8, we see a bunch of junky red cards, Twinferno, Enthrall to the Pit, Viashino Branch Rider. There's a Phyrexian Vivisector, a Splatter Goblin, another blue-white land, and also a green-red land. What do you take here?
You do have 2 Destroy Evils in the Captain's called for the Twinferno.
Oh, not at all where I was looking.
I mean, it's that or the blue-white land for me. Like, I think there's like not much else you could take here other than Twinferno or blue-white land.
Yep, and that's what I took. I took the blue-white land. Like I said, I was not way off in Jason land thinking about Twinferno to Destroy Evil. But
yeah, I don't know. The problem is like I'm just looking at your spell count, but unfortunately, Destroy Evil is a bit sketchy to copy because like it's not that often that there are 2 targets for you to destroy with Destroy Evil immediately.
Yep. Also, small rules interaction. If you copy a spell, you have to pick the same mode. Yes. So it's not even like I can be like destroy a 4-power creature, destroy an enchantment. Like you have to actually have 2 big things or 2 enchantments.
Yeah, Twinferno. I don't know. I'd like kind of like one thing is just like I don't really like taking blue-white lands when like I don't have anything to do with them yet. Like it's not like I'm still looking fairly red-white right now because I have the strike team. But it probably is just correct to take the blue-white land. I will say, if we had a Tory instead of his Captain's Call, I would be slamming this Twinferno. Yeah,
trample plus double strike. It's a nice little combo, right? So yeah. No, I can definitely agree with that. Pick 9 here. We get a Thrill. We see a blue-red land, a green-black land still in the pack, and then some fillery some fillery black cards and a Gaia's Might as well.
I think I would take the Thrill at this point. Like, you already have 2 lands. Taking a 3rd land to like speculate on Jeskai feels like just a bit too aggressive and on taking lands. And the Thrill can definitely end up being pretty good when you're in a Jeskai space. And like, it's also just a okay-ish card, even if it doesn't have synergies.
I took the Tributary. I just felt like I agree with what you said there. I just think I can probably get a Thrill if I like want that kind of card in this deck. And I feel like I would miss the Tributary if I wanted it more than the Thrill. That was my logic here. And like, I've got the Strike Team. Maybe I can be like blue-white splash Strike Team, maybe multiple copies of Strike Team. I don't know. I just feel like this maybe opens up more paths. Maybe you're just thinking you want to stay closer to like some sort of red-white deck and not trail off into other colors just yet until, like you said, until you have reasons to do so.
Yes, for me, the thing is, I really don't like taking like lands this highly when I'm not anywhere close to domain, really.
Right.
Like, I feel like I can get fixing later or just play slightly sketchier mana. Like if I'm not in domain, I don't like literally need like the lands, right? I can play, like a Crystal Grotto or a Mana Worker or like just more card filtering, like Thrill, for example. Thrill does actually help a bit with your mana. And like, I don't have that much reason to believe I'm going to be in Jeskai right now. Like the 2 white lands does like leave me very open to being in Jeskai, but I feel like if I basically my thought is if I'm taking the blue-red land, it's because I think I'm going to be in Jeskai. But if I think I'm going to be in Jeskai, I kind of want the thrill instead because I kind of want to like fill out my spells because like Jeskai usually is in a spells place. Like one common thing is like Wrath or Balmor being splashed as an in to Jeskai. So yeah, that's why I would land on the thrill.
Yeah, no, and this is great. This is a completely different space than I would. The way that you're framing this draft is a completely different space than how I did. So I love that logic. That's awesome. Moving on to pick 10 here. Haunting Figment, Inscribed Tablets. I've got a Molten Monstrosity as well. Anything? I think it's kind of between the tablet and the Figment, and I think I might have taken. We don't have picks on for this one. I think I might have taken the Figment, but looking back, I maybe should have taken the tablet. I don't know.
Interesting. I would definitely take the Figment here.
Okay, I did take the Figment. Yeah.
Okay. I think you're like basically again. I think you're like already like kind of land flooded.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
To use
totally.
the term completely separately from how it's used. But I feel like you already have too much fixing. I want like something like Figment is a card that I'm like pretty happy to play in blue white often because like maybe I just want some early chip damage as I like get value with my Wrath or something.
Yeah, no. Totally. I think Figment's also a card I like slightly undervalue, and like I've categorized it as like, oh, I don't really like want to play this card, but you're right. Like it's like fine filler in the deck that it belongs in, basically.
Yeah.
All right, pick 11 here. Some more fixing. We've got a Mana Worker. We've got a Sacred Peaks. I took the Sacred Peaks, but maybe you should have taken the Mana Worker.
I think like either really is fine. I don't know. Like it's like so unlikely that you're going black or green at this point, I think.
Right.
But on the other hand, like you also don't need the Sacred Peaks, right, for your Jeskai mana. So maybe it is just better to take the Mana Worker. I don't know. I think it's like close. I don't really have a strong opinion on this.
Right.
Also, I will comment. This shows you being punished for taking the Molten Tributary earlier.
Right.
Like,
Sure.
Now you have too much fixing.
Exactly. Pick 12 here. I took a Coalition Warbrute over a Smash to Dust. But again, there's a Smash to Dust. Maybe should have just taken that instead of random.
No, I like the Warbrute.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Like, it's I basically I feel like you need more like main deck stuff right now.
Gotcha.
Because,
I agree.
Yeah.
Then we got a Steel Crusher, Yavimaya Steel Crusher, and a Yavimaya Sojourner. Pick 14. All right, so let's do a little check-in here at the end of pack 1. How are we feeling about the deck?
I mean, I don't hate our spot. I'd be pretty excited if I saw like a Balmor.
Right.
Pack 2, pick 1, right? Like that would be like amazing. Like we're basically like we're in a good place if Jeskai is open, and otherwise it might be kind of sketchy.
Yes, that's kind of how I felt too. So, moving into pack 2 here, we see a Quirion Beastcaller, which is the 2-mana 2/2 rare that whenever you cast a creature spell, you put a counter on it, and then when it dies, you distribute its counters among creatures you control. See a green-white land, a black-white land. There's like another Mana Worker, an Artillery Blast, a Jodas Codex, a Vohar. Nothing really that like strikes me as, oh, this is awesome in our Jeskai potentially spells deck. So what does Jason see out of this pack?
Yeah, this pack is kind of rough. So like I think the only 2 cards actually I should say 3. The 3 cards I'm considering right now. Quirion Beastcaller because it's the best card in the pack, but unfortunately it is green.
It's a big problem, yeah.
For your Jeskai deck. Then there's Jodas Codex because like you could imagine a Jeskai deck playing that. Pay 2 to draw a card.
It's a little rough, but yeah.
yeah. Maybe you can get like another land in there, but that's also kind of rough since you've already like have spent so many picks on lands. And then there's Artillery Blast, which is like a fine removal spell. It goes well with your drawbridge, kind of, and the fact that you have Jeskai mana. So like it is a deal 4. Which is like good removal. I don't know. I think it's close for me between Beastcaller and Blast. I think I'd have to think about it a lot more because like I'd need to think about like what kind of a deck am I imagining playing Beastcaller in, right? Like where do I think like maybe
a deck where
deck?
A deck where I continue to overvalue taking fixing over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm thinking, like I'm just looking at the cards we have, and I'm thinking, like, okay, you have the Sojourner. I guess I forgot about that because that was like in the sideboard.
Yeah,
But
let's do a
like,
little check-in, actually, because I didn't read it out at the end of pack 1 here. We've got 2 Destroy Evils, 4 Jeskai lands, a Clockwork Drawbridge, a Yavimaya Steel Crusher, Haunting Figment, Yavimaya Sojourner, which is the 4/6 green creature, Keldon Strike Team, Captain's Call, Argivian Cavalier, Coalition Warbrute. So that's where we stand here.
I could definitely see like taking Beast Caller and trying to be like looking at my red creatures and my Sojourner and saying, okay, I'll try to be red-green domain splashing these 2 Destroy Evils, or maybe be like green-white and like lose out on a couple of the red cards. I think it's probably good enough to speculate on Overblast. But
yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what I took. So I took the Beast Caller here. I just thought, I've got, like, I was thinking I'm mostly red-white, but like you said, I could be green-white base. I could be red-white or red-green base. I could, it's not an ideal splash card, but I could get it in there somehow, and it's still not the worst card, So I just thought it was high enough upside over any of the other cards in the pack. So I ended up taking
it. Like another thing is like right now you don't actually have that much of a reason to be red-white, right? Like you have a lot of like the like you have like some good cards in Destroy Evil and you have good fixing for Jeskai, but you don't have like a reason to be red-white. You have a couple token makers, but you don't have like the pump spells. So it's like you don't have enough of a draw into red-white to like not take the Beast.
Yes, that was my thought too. Pick 2 here, pack 2, pick 2. We have a little bit of an easier pick in my mind. So the cards that stick out, well, Lightning Strike here. So that's the card that is number 1 in my mind here. We've also got a Citizen's Arrest, or actually, I shouldn't even say that because I actually think I might have taken something else. We also have a Citizen's Arrest in this pack. So white, 1 white for the enchantment, enters the battlefield, exiles a creature or a planeswalker until it leaves. There's a black-white land. There's a Strength of the Coalition, the +2 combat trick. If you kick it for 2 and a white, you can put +1/+1 counters on your whole team. What sticks out to you here?
So it's definitely one of like strike, arrest, strength. So first, like looking at the removal spells, I think I like Lightning Strike better than Arrest because you already have 2 Destroy Evils. So like you already have ways to deal with big creatures. I think you'd rather just have like an efficient thing to deal with small creatures, split card with, deal 3 to your opponent's face. It can be like a decent aggressive card. Also, like your cards do lean aggressively with like Beast Caller is better when aggressive. Mm-hmm. And I'm also still kind of thinking like, oh, maybe I want to like try to be red-green and splash these Destroy Evils as a way to like play more of our cards and make more of them better. Because I do think that like Steel Crusher, Strike Team, and Warbrute are all like I think Steel Crusher and Warbrute are better in red-green than red-white, and like Strike Team is also fine in red-green. So that's kind of factoring into my thought process here for like wanting Lightning Strike.
Yeah, and I took the Citizen's Arrest, and I do. This is another pick I disagree with myself on. Looking back, I just think that I was too focused on. Well, I'm kind of like waffling here. I wanted to like dial in on white so I could have a base color, but I think given my position,
makes sense.
Well, it kind of makes sense, but I also think like given I have like a decent amount of fixing and like I'm probably going to be splashing something somewhere. I think the Lightning Strike's just like flexible enough, and like I'll be able to fit it into my deck even if I'm not base red, So I think it's a close pick, but all those little things added up to me just taking Lightning Strike, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you could phrase it as like Citizen's Arrest is better for like your waffling because it like helps you stick to a main color of white. Or you could say Lightning Strike helps with the fact that you're waffling because you're probably going to play a soup of colors anyways, and like, it's easier to splash.
Exactly, yeah, it's really funny. Pick 3 here. So here we have some okay cards to choose from. So we've got green-red land. We've got a Zaro Janin, which is the green-white 4/4 gold card, uncommon. Banalish Sleeper, Floriferous Vinewall, Griffin Protector, Sunbathing Rootwalla, and Miria's Outrider. So actually, like, all nothing that's like, oh man, super excited to see this here, but all reasonable cards.
I think I would land on the Outrider for the reason of like, um, I think you need to take. I again just like keep thinking that you need to take more main deck cards and like can't afford to take that many more lands this early.
Yep.
And I think Outrider is better than Czar, definitely, because partly because it's easier to cast, and also just because like if you like throw away your Beast Caller and lands in like Jeskai again, it's still like dealing 3 is pretty good for it. And also like better than Root Walla because it is, I think, more likely to make your deck.
Yep, I agree with that. And I took the red green land. So I was like, all right, so I want to have ways to get this Beast Caller in my deck. Maybe I play the Sojourner, but no, I totally agree with what you're saying. And even looking through this pick, knowing what I took, I was like, oh, I should totally have just taken the Outrider here. So I want to reverse, go back a little bit here and just like think about why I was thinking this here, or why I got into this mind state. So I think my thought was I'm waffling a little bit, taking Fixing can kind of cure that waffling because I'll be able to just play more cards. But I think exactly what you said, where the cure for the waffling here isn't to keep taking Fixing, because I'm kind of okay on that, even if I'm not, I don't have the exact Fixing for my cards. I should just be taking more main deck cards so that no matter where I end up, I'm going to be happy with my spells, rather than take a bunch of Fixing, be able to play 23, 6 out of 10s, rather than some 8 out of 10s and some 5 out of 10s or whatever.
Yeah, and Outrider is perfect for that because it's like a very splashable card that's like powerful everywhere.
Yeah, so I agree. Big misstep for me here. Next one. So we're like, all right, this one throws me for a loop a bit. We've got a Wrath.
Blue cards.
Yeah, we got blue cards. A Wrath, Witherlight Stalwart, an Essence Scatter, a blue-white land, a Vine Shaper Prodigy, a Soaring Drake, a Stall for Time, and a Scout the Wilderness. So yeah, lots of options. None of them directly go into what we're doing just yet. Except we do have, again, those Jeskai lands.
I think the blue ship has sailed here. I don't think you can take Wrath or Scatter. Even though, you do have those 3 blue lands looking extremely tantalizing for this Wrath.
Well, right. What if we just go back to our original thought of we're just Jeskai, right? The other thought for me here is that there's nothing else in this pack I care about except the Scatter and the Wrath. Those are the best cards by a lot, I think. Right?
So I do kind of like the Scout, the Wilderness.
Okay.
Maybe it's too much of a power hit, but it helps with your Fixing. It is a reason, it's a worse card, but it helps with both having Fixing and maybe this kind of reasonable main deck card. I'm just kind of worried about this Wrath, I guess you do have a drawbridge.
Yeah, I think the Wrath is good.
I think I will revise my statement too. With the picks you have taken, I would take the Wrath. With the picks I wanted to take, I would take the Scout.
All right. I respect that. I did end up taking the Wrath here because I was like, okay, this is my into Jeskai. I have 2 Destroy Evils. I've got a decent number of spells. I would have been happier with the Lightning Strike, hindsight 2020 and all that. But yeah, I did end up taking the Wrath here.
If you have a Lightning Strike over the Citizen's Arrest, I suddenly have a lot less reason to want to be white. So that puts me a bit more off the Wrath. And if you have the Outrider, that makes me more likely to want Scout for both helping get my domain and also ramping to 5.
Yeah.
But the combination of not having those 2 does make Wrath a lot more appealing. So I would agree with it here.
In pick 5 here, we see a Shalai's Acolyte, we see a Relic of Legends, a Griffin Protector, a Salvage Mana Worker, another Yavimaya Steel Crusher, and a black-white land.
I would just take the Protector here, I think. I think it's better than the Acolyte. I don't think you need the Relic.
Yeah.
Or the Mana Worker, yeah.
And if you got enough tokeny stuff, this is I'm kind of making up for the Griffin Protector I didn't take the first time around. So yeah, it's not exciting, but I do agree that's what I should take, and I did take that. We see another pack where there's another Griffin Protector. There's also a Flowstone Infusion. So the 3 cards in this pack that I would note, pick 6 here are Griffin Protector, Samite Herbalist, and Flowstone Infusion. I took the Protector mostly because I felt, okay, I need some definition, some creatures, some ways to have a solid base of what we're doing. I've got, Destroy Evil X2, which fills a slightly different role, of course, than Infusion, but I've also got like a Citizen's Rest for interaction. The Infusion is a spell for Wrath and for the Haunting Figment, which I have, which again, we're like throwing all these like 4 colors of cards, which is kind of where I'm at this point. So I'm kind of like planning for this deck that I'm not even sure what colors I'm going to be, but I landed on the Griffin Protector for the reason of just like, okay, I've got enough tokens here. This is some definition I can lean into.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely like taking a white card here because like now you're like very much solidifying yourself in white. You have the Wrath, you have the Citizen's Arrest. Like you're going to be playing white. I don't think you can afford to like take cards that you might not like put in, like take cards that might not make your deck over cards that definitely will make your deck here. Like Infusion is like a bit too awkward on the splash, basically. I do like the Protector over the Herbalist because it just feels, I can't quite say why it feels like you need the 4 here more than you need the 2. Like you need something on your top end more than you need the Herbalist on 2.
Pick 7 here. We got a pretty decent pickup. We got a Love Song of Night and Day, which is, again, the White Saga that makes a bird and puts counters and stuff. There's also a Tura Kennerid, which I think is just the worst card to take here than Love Song of Night and Day. There's a Charismatic Vanguard. Charismatic, that's the word. Charismatic Vanguard. 3 mana, 3/2, pumps the team for 5 mana. So, like, kind of plays into the token theme, but I think Love Song is just enough of a better card. Do you agree with everything there?
Yeah.
Take the Love Song? Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. Love the Love Song.
Here was a tough one for me. So, there's a Captain's Call. There's also a Heroic Charge. I tanked on this for a long time because I was like, all right, well, I could just have more tokens to go with my Griffin Protectors. Like, that's kind of nice, and I've got the Wrath to pump my team. But Heroic Charge is the best way to pump your team, and it is, the card that steals the games out of nowhere when you do have a lot of ways to go wide. So I ended up taking the Heroic Charge here. I wonder if you do the opposite and take the Captain's Call.
I would also take the charge here. I think like you have enough token stuff with like Cavalier, Strike Team, Love Song, Captain's Call. Like, I think you just want a way to like push through with those.
And this ended up being a pretty key pick, just as like a little bit results oriented, but the games that I did win with this deck both of them were thanks to the Heroic Charge. So ended up being pretty key. Pick 9 here, we get a Impede Momentum or a Salvage Mana Worker or a Smash the Dust. I end up taking the Mana Worker here. Kind of ties the room together with our potential 4-color nonsense.
Yeah, you also do like kind of need like a couple more 2s.
Yep. I could. Speaking of which, got a Goblin Picker, pick 10, so that's pretty good. Not mad at all. Picked up another blue-white land over a Zaro Janin, pick 11, yep. And
it's even a pain land that like you're happy about over a tap land.
Exactly, yeah, pain land in my kind of aggressive deck, which is nice compared to like all the tap lands I have. That Scout the Wilderness, I took that on the wheel over a Meteorite, Impede Momentum, pick 13, and Volsh Tide Turner, pick 14. Okay, so let's do another check-in here as we go into pack 3. I'm like just shy of a pretty good red-white deck, I think, right? I've got like 2 Griffin Protectors, the Strike Team, the Captain's Call, the Love Song, Charge. I'm a little short on 2-drops, like you said. I've got this Beast Collar, but I'm feeling pretty okay because I'm like, you know what? As long as this pack 3 doesn't go horrendously, I think I can cobble together a deck where maybe I'm splashing the Wrath, maybe I'm not, but I don't feel like I have to be like all over the place. Like I've got 60% of a good red-white aggro deck going, right?
Yeah,
so
this still doesn't look train wrecky to
me. No, not at all. Let's see what pack 3 has for us. So pack 3 here, man, I think I probably made the wrong pick here too. So we've got a Micromancer, which, the 4 mana 3/3 goes and gets a 1-drop. We've got a Samite Herbalist, which is the 2/1 for 2, that when it attacks, when it becomes tapped, you gain a life and scry 1. We've got a Take-Up Shield. So those are 3 cards in contention. Also, Thrill Possibility, if you want to shout that out. I ended up taking the Micromancer here. I think that's wrong at that point.
I agree. Like I think you need too many things to go right for Micromancer. Both like you need to be in blue, like you need to be happier to play blue cards, which like currently you would rather play red, I think, like as your secondary color and splash the Wrath.
Right. That's what I was thinking here. We're just like, I'm not that deep into red. I've got, nothing in red I'm really happy, or, thrilled about, except for the Strike Team and the Heroic Charge. I can splash those from my red lands here. And yeah, maybe I pick up, the thing here is, like, I was being a little too optimistic, because like you said, too many things have to go right, because I don't even have any 1-drop spells at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is a pack where I should have just taken probably just the Take Up Shield. Protects my Griffin Protectors, protects my Enlist creatures. So yeah, I disagree with my past self on this pick too.
Yeah. Also, I think people might overrate Micromancer a bit when it's not getting like a super impactful spell. Like, it's fine when it gets in timely interference, but there's a timely interference in that pack, so like you could wheel it, but it's still not going to be like amazing to like put a Micromancer in your deck whose only target is a timely interference. Like, you would rather have a Rona's Vortex or a Runic Shot or something like that.
And just to, again, kind of reverse engineer why I think I made that pick, just to, so you at home don't make this pick, is I didn't, what I just did it a second ago, where I was like, okay, like, looking at pack 2 here's what I think my deck is kind of looking like. I don't think I fully did the end of pack 2 check-in, where I was like, here's my running story of the deck. I think I still thought I was potentially more blue than I thought I was, potentially more splish-splashy than I thought it was. If I just removed the blue cards, looked at my red-white cards, I would have come to the conclusion that, like I did, just talking to you here, I'm 65% of the way there to a good red-white aggro deck. I don't need to mess with this blue card here. Mm-hmm. All right, so pack 3, pick 2 here. Pretty sad pack, because there's a really good card that we can't take, and a lot of cards that are on the edge of good, but again, hard to play. So Weather Seed Treaty, best card in the pack. I think the ship on green is mostly sailed here.
Yep.
Yeah, can't play that. There's the Essence Scatter, which is another card I'm like, okay, well, maybe I am blue-white. Essence Scatter is good. And the rest of the pack just kind of sucks. I mean, there's a Furious Bellow as a fine combat trick. I could have taken that. There's a Molten Monstrosity, which is not particularly good in red-white. I don't know. What do you like out of this pack?
I'm surprised you didn't mention Stall for Time.
Oh, okay.
I think like Stall for Time is like honestly not that bad when you can kick it.
I love, by the way, just gonna pause. I love how many times you've said that during this podcast already. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't mention this, because that's just like, it's exactly what we're here for things that like I'm just like on a different wavelength on. So yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I think I would land on Essence Scatter here and like try to wield the Stall for Time. Mm-hmm. But like I think Stall for Time would be my second pick out of this pack,
right?
Because like you're not like super aggressive. You're kind of tempo-y with like you have Wrath, you have Haunting Figment, you have 2 Griffin Protectors. Like, you're not really curve out and kill them. So like kicking Stall for Time is like more appealing than in most white decks. Like, again, I feel like blue-white can often play a bit more controlling than the other white decks. And that's where I like Stall for Time the most. Like, kind of obviously because, it has the blue kicker, but like, yeah, it is powerful if you like do actually want to get to 5 mana and kick a spell to like temporarily remove 2 creatures.
Yeah, it's also like kind of sneakily good with tokens too, which I have a lot of, right? Because often the thing with tokens is like, well, I've got a lot of small 1/1s, but if I attack, like I can't, my opponent's gonna eat all their stuff, all the tokens, right? But if you just tap down like 2 of their things and they only have 1 good blocker, well, you make a big attack, they eat 1 thing, and then you still can attack all next turn, and you get in a lot of damage. So yeah, you're right, definitely. As we're talking through this, and spoiler alert, a Stall for Time or 2 did end up making my deck, so it is a card I eventually considered.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like what you actually took, which is Essence Scatter over the Stall for Time, but I did want to mention the Stall for Time.
Totally. All right, pick 3 here. Again, nothing amazing. There's a Banal Sleeper. There's a Vesuvian Duplimancy, which I did look at my combat trick count. I was like, all right, I'm not really there. I just took the Banal Sleeper. There's a Flowstone Infusion too, but just took a decent 2-drop. Even without wasting.
Sadly, we're not in the space for Duplimancy.
Yeah, exactly. I picked 4 here. I took another Banal Sleeper over an Electrostatic Infantry, which I just didn't have the spell count for, basically.
Whoa, I'm surprised that like you took the sleeper over this interference for your Micromancer.
Yeah, that was.
I like don't disagree with you. I'm just like surprised that you would take Micromancer and then not take the interference here.
Yeah, basically, I was like, I think at this point I made the realization about Micromancer that I should have made, like when we were talking about here, and I'm just like, I shouldn't try to fight for it. I shouldn't try to like. Yes, there's an interference here, but you know what? I'm just gonna like if interference is the only card that I'm getting. basically, I'm not that happy about it, right? Like you said, you kind of want to have a really good spell to get, and if you don't have a really good spell to get, you want to have multiple spells to get. So I just thought I wouldn't want to take the high ups or the high risk line, right? I just want to take the good 2-drop. I know I want a good 2-drop.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was just very curious to hear your reason.
Totally, yeah. Took an Essence Scatter, pick 5 over a Drawbridge, a Mana Worker, a Soaring Drake. I did look at the Soaring Drake because I was like, again, in that mode of like, do I just need ways to like win this game? Like, Essence Scatter is a fantastic supplemental card if you've got like, good ways to close out the game. Flaring Terror decks is the absolute best place for that. But like, I was like, do I just need cards that go with my heroic charge and stuff like that? I ended up just taking the better card, but it was kind of close.
I don't think you need the Drake, especially after taking 2 sleepers. Like,
right.
Playing a sleeper on 2 and then like scattering a couple times can like definitely close out games a bit and like finish with the protector or something.
Yep.
I think you're probably fine.
Yeah. Pick 6 here. We took an Impulse to kind of tie the room together again, like trying to figure out how my mana situation is going to work. There's also a Zur, Eternal Schemer, but with only
not
one
going to take the Mythic?
Yeah, not going to take the Mythic. An Urtai Scorn, an Automatic Librarian, a Mesa Cavalier, kind of fillery cards. I do like Urtai Scorn, but I like a little bit less in like a slightly more aggressive deck.
I honestly wonder whether like Cavalier might be better here.
Yeah, like kind of along the same lines of what I was just thinking with the Essence Scatter Soaring Drake pick.
Yeah, like Impulse drops off a bit when you don't have like spell payoffs. Like
will my cards suck?
To be fair, Impulse does find your heroic charge.
It does, yeah.
And it like goes with your Essence Scatter. So like probably it's still the pick, but like it's definitely interesting to think about.
That was my thought. It's like it's good with Wrath, it's good with my cheap instants, so that was my logic there. And then I think the rest of the pack here, pick 7, get a Stall for Time. Pick 8, get a Soaring Drake. Pick 9, get a Negate. It's just, another Stall for Time, pick 10, but nothing really that made my deck any better. So it was kind of, a little bit self-inflicted with what I was saying, where I did end up in a deck where, I was like 70% of the way there, 60% of the way there, good red-white aggro deck, and I ended up not really getting there in pack 3. The cards weren't there. But again, I did pick cards that probably moved me further away from where I wanted to be than I should have, right? I ended up in this, as I described, probably the worst deck I've drafted this format, this hodgepodge. Let me just read out the highlights here. 2 Griffin Protectors, Captain's Call, Heroic Charge in the 4-drop slot, Argivian Cavalier, Keldon Strike Team, Soaring Drake, Citizen's Arrest, Love Song, and Stall for Time in the 3-drop slot. An assortment of 2-drops with the scatters and the Destroy Evils and the Banal Sleepers. I did end up splashing the Beast Collar. I've also got the Wrath in there, of course. The Beast Collar was like super like, okay, I just need some power, and maybe that's just like the wrong thing to do here because I've got the Mana Worker. I shoved in a Forest, which is just like, I don't know, looking back, maybe I should have just played like a second Stall for Time or something like that.
Yeah, I honestly think your blue-white deck was not that bad.
Right.
Like it's like doesn't have anything special, but like it has removal, it has a couple Essence Scatters, it has ways to win the game. I think I wouldn't have gone for the greedy splash here.
Yeah, I think so too, looking back. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I consider myself a pretty, I guess, consistent drafter is what I would say, where, I basically draft pretty similarly draft to draft. I do think the stakes got to me a little bit in this draft, though. I think that's where I faltered. And again, I didn't I talk about Magic all day, and I have all these practices that I tell people that are like best practices. And I don't think I followed some of them in this draft. So that's just, a little bit of a takeaway for me there. Just to talk about the games a little bit, I think as much as this is the worst draft, a deck I've drafted in this format, it's probably the luckiest I've also gotten in this format, where match 1, which I won, was against a Mardu grindy deck with both Shieldred and Archangel, the Mardu Archangel, and they cast those cards multiple times in both games, and I had the Essence Scatter at the right moment, or the Destroy Evil for the Shieldred, or I just like killed them with Heroic Charge the next turn, and I played that in my mind basically to get to the point that I got to, but again, I got lucky. It was a bit of good play, but man, so luck definitely was involved. All right, yeah. Jason, let's wrap it up. Been kind of a long episode, but I hope you all out there who are listening to the podcast or watching like this a little bit of a different take on love and level ups. We don't usually go for this kind of content, but I figured, good time to do it. Good time for a little bit of a shift now that Dominaria is winding down a little bit. Looking forward to some more kind of set agnostic level ups in the next few weeks. Jason, thank you for joining me. Any last thoughts on either of these drafts we had?
I think you shouldn't beat yourself up too much about the second draft. I think you drafted fairly well,
right?
And I don't think you ended up in too bad of a spot. And of course, also playing out of your mind is a very good way to make up some of that.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on as well.
Of course. And for those who maybe don't know Jason as well, where can people find you, Jason?
Basically, JasonILTG everywhere, on Twitch, on Twitter, on Discord. I sometimes stream, not that consistent about it. I sometimes tweet about various Magic things, though I have been a bit less on Twitter recently because keeping things a bit quieter for testing purposes.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, Jason's awesome. Go follow Jason on all the platforms. You will thank yourself. Anyways, Jason, I will thank you once again for coming on. And thank you everybody for watching, listening. We'll see you next time.